Hey everyone, it's Retro DM Ray. So I'm with you to do a comparison and a contrast between first edition AD&D and second edition AD&D in relation to ability scores. And in particular, like I said in my short, what I'm going to do is going to be starting off with strength. And so I'm going to actually read the entry for strength in the first edition advanced D&D player's guide, and then I'm going to move over to the second edition one, and you'll see if you can hear any differences yourself. And then if you open your player's handbooks, my player's handbook for first edition Dungeons and Dragons is on page 9, and then for second edition Dungeons and Dragons, it starts on page 13 in that player's handbook. So you'll be able to follow along and see kind of the chart comparisons that I'm making as well. Now, there are some differences, and if I don't catch them all, you can mention them yourself. I probably won't cover every single thing that I notice here, so be more than welcome to put those in the comments, and we can talk about those. I love to have discussions with you guys. Thanks again to all who have subbed. Appreciate those of all who have been watching. If you are on the fence and aren't subbed yet, please consider coming on over. We talk about good old school games and some new school stuff a little bit too. Shadow Dark and Dragonbane and Forbidden Lands by Free League and other things like that to go along with first and second edition. Right now I just have a focus on the old school games that I used to play. Alright, so give me a thumbs up if you like this. Share with those who watch these kinds of things. I'd really appreciate you grow the channel. And let's get right into it. So in first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, again on page 9, here's the strength entry. It says, strength is a measure of muscle, endurance, and stamina combined. For purposes of relating this ability to some reality, assume that a character with a strength of 3 is able to lift a maximum of 30 pounds weight above his or her head in a military press, while a character with 18 strength will be able to press 180 pounds in the same manner. Strength is the forte of fighters, for they must be physically powerful in order to wear armor and wield heavy weapons. Therefore, strength is the major characteristic, or prime requisite, of fighters. And those fighters with strength of 16 or more gain a bonus of 10% of earned experience, explained later. Furthermore, fighters with an 18 strength are entitled to roll percentile dice in order to generate a random number between 0, 1 and 00 or 100 to determine exceptional strength. Exceptional strength increases hit probability and damage done when attacking, and it also increases the weight the character is able to carry without penalty for encumbrance, as well as increasing the character's ability to force open doors and similar portals. The tables below give complete information regarding the effects of strength. Note that only fighters are permitted to roll on the exceptional strength section of Strength Table 2 ability adjustments. You have two tables here. Strength Table 1 has the ability scores ranging from 3 to 18 over 100, and then general information about each stat. And this I really like on this table. For example, Strength 5, the general information is here or lower. The character can only be a magic user. If you wanted to play a gnome, a half-orc, or a halfling, you had to have a minimum of 6. A dwarf had to have a minimum of 8. A fighter had to have a minimum of 9, and the table kind of progresses from there. All right. Interestingly, this divides it out later in the table per gender, male versus female character types, and what the minimums and maximums would be. I don't personally have a problem with that. If that's a problem for you, then that'd be just a problem for you. But that is the way that it was in advanced first edition D&D, AD&D, and I don't mind that. And then Strength Table 2, ability score adjustments, again, started at ability score 3 and went all the way up to 18 over 100. And weight allowance was given there for you, with a 3 being negative 350 and an 18 over 100 being plus 3,000. We'll get to that in a second. So, notes regarding Strength Table 2. Hit probability adjustments refer to the score generated by dice rolling in melee combat. Subtraction from or addition to the number rolled is made according to the table as applicable. Damage adjustment likewise applies to melee combat. The damage done by scoring a successful hit on an opponent is adjusted downwards or upwards as applicable. Thus, if a hit would normally score 1 to 6 points of damage upon the opponent and the character's strength was only 3, the actual damage done would be reduced by 1 point. But on the other hand, if the attacker had strength of 18 to 100, the actual damage would be adjusted upwards by 6 points, and possible damage would jump from 1 to 6 to 7 to 12. Weight allowance is given in number of gold pieces over and above the maximum normally stated for unencumbered movement. And you'll have to see the movement section for that as directed here in the paragraph. The conversion ratio of gold pieces to pounds of weight is 10 to 1. So let me give you an example here. Then 18 over 100 strength says plus 3,000 weight allowance. So that means you would add to your weight allowance the ability for you to carry 300 pounds. Okay? 3,000 coins weighs 300 pounds, just as an example. So that's how you make that conversion on that chart. Okay? So it says if a character could normally carry 500 gold pieces without encumbrance, but the character had a strength score of 17 instead of the normal 8 to 11 range, 1,000 gold pieces could be carried without incurring movement penalty. Okay, so they would have the 500 gold pieces base as what they could normally carry, and then if they had a 17, they would be adding plus 500 to their weight allowance, thus giving them the 1,000. Okay. Open doors. This indicates the number of chances out of 6 which the character has of opening a stuck or heavy door on that try. Successive attempts may be made at no penalty with regard to damage to the character attempting to force the door open, but each such attempt requires time and makes considerable noise. And when you read through the DMG, very clearly it states that wandering monster encounters are rolled based upon the noise the parties make. And so the noises that they make would generate additional random wandering monster encounter rolls or encounter checks. Last entry here is bend bars, lift gates. This states the percentage chance the character has of bending normal soft iron bars or of lifting a vertically moving gate, such as a small portcullis bearing or barring a passage. The attempt may be made but once, and if the score required is not made, the character will never succeed in the task. Example: a character with 16 strength is trapped in a dead-end passage by a set of iron bars which drop down from the ceiling when a stone slab is stepped on, and triggers the release of the gate. The character first attempts to lift the gate. A roll of 0, 1 to 10 indicating success, but the percentile dice comes up 74, so failure is indicated. The character next attempts to bend the bars in order to squeeze between them, and the percentage chance of success is the same as for the lifting the gate, and this time a 0-7 is rolled, so the character slips out and is free. Alright, so that's the first edition AD&D Player's Handbook entry on strength, and we'll come back to that here in a second. Now I'm going to read to you the second edition AD&D Player's Handbook entry for strength. Excuse me. You may notice some differences here. Strength measures a character's muscle, endurance, and stamina. This ability is the prime requisite of warriors because they must be physically powerful in order to wear armor and wield heavy weapons. So there's a difference. It's not fighters, it's warriors. The word has been changed. Fighters was a class. Now warriors is a class heading, of which underneath that is fighter. Okay. A fighter with a score of 16 or more in strength gains a 10% bonus to the experience points he earns. Furthermore, any warrior with a strength score of 18 is entitled to roll percentile dice to determine exceptional strength. Exceptional strength improves the character's chance to hit an enemy, increases the damage he causes with each hit, increases the weight the character is able to carry without penalty for encumbrance, see below, and increases the character's ability to force open doors and similar portals. The rest of this section on strength consists of explanations of the columns in Table 1 on page 14. Refer to the table as you read. Hit probability adjustments are added to or subtracted from the attack roll on a d20 during combat. A positive or a bonus number makes the opponent easier to hit. A penalty, negative number, makes him harder to hit. Damage adjustment also applies to combat. The listed number is added to or subtracted from the dice rolled to determine the damage caused by an attack. Regardless of subtractions, a successful attack can never cause less than 1 point of damage. For example, a short sword normally causes 1d6 points of damage, a range of 1 to 6. An attack with a 17 strength causes 1 extra point of damage for a range of 2 to 7 points of damage. The damage adjustment also applies to missile weapons, although bows must be specially made to gain the bonus. Crossbows never benefit from the user's strength. Okay, so a couple of things to take note of there. The statement about minimum damage of 1, that was a given in the discussions in the first edition Player's Handbook and DMG, and that's how we always ran it. You could never do less than a point of damage when you attacked if you hit successfully, but it's stated out here. And also it's stated here in this strength attribute section that the bonus can be applied to missile weapons for the damage adjustment. Excuse me. But the bows must be specially made to gain the bonus. I do believe that there's somewhere in the Dungeon Master's Guide that makes reference to that, or maybe here in the Player's Handbook. I'm not positive. If you know where that reference is for that, you're welcome to share it with me. I know there was something in a Dragon magazine that discussed something similar as well. So you're welcome to, if you know that, share that as well. And then crossbows never benefit from the user's strength. A weight allowance is the weight, and this time it's in pounds. Okay, so there's a difference. The first one was you had to convert the coinage weight by dividing that plus from strength by 10 to get the poundage. Here it's just directly listed in pounds. But there's something else to take note of when we look at the chart in a second. Encumbrance measures how a character's possessions hamper his movement. These weights are expressed in pounds. A character, the weight that they can carry is without being encumbered. A character can carry up to the listed weight and can move their full movement rate. Maximum press. This is the heaviest weight a character can pick up and lift over his head. A character cannot walk more than a few steps this way. No human or humanoid creature without exceptional strength can lift more than twice his body weight over his head. In 1987, the world record for lifting a weight overhead in a single move was 465 pounds. A heroic fighter with strength 18 over 100, see Table 1, can lift up to 480 pounds the same way, and he can hold it overhead for a longer time. Open doors. This indicates the character's chance to force open a heavy or stuck door. When a character tries to force a door open, roll 1d20. If the result is equal to or less than the listed number, the door opens. A character can keep trying to open a door until it finally opens, but each attempt takes time. Exactly how much is up to the DM and makes a lot of noise. So now we've moved from d6 to d20. If you're a math person, that does change the curve slightly. I believe the number ranges of about 1 to 1.5% of difference between using the two different dice and comparing the numbers here on this table versus the 1d6 strength table in first edition. Numbers in parentheses are chances on a d20 to open the locked, barred, or magically held door, but only one attempt can ever be made. If it fails, no further attempts by that character can succeed. Bend bars, lift gates states the character's percentage chance rolled on percentile dice to bend normal, soft iron bars like a vertical gate, portcullis, or perform a similar feat of enormous strength. When the character makes the attempt, roll percentile dice. If the number rolled is equal to or less than the number listed on Table 1, the character bends the bars or lifts the gate. If the attempt fails, the character can never succeed at that task. The character can, however, try to bend the bars on a gate that he couldn't lift, and vice versa. So it's similar things to that stated there in first edition, but it's just reworded. A little bit of extra wording is added there, but it still covers the same basic idea. it's not something you couldn't easily understand from reading the previous information. Now, what is different that I see here too in these two tables is rather significant. The first one is not all that significant, which is that the second edition table 1 on page 14 here, starts at ability score 1 for strength and then goes to 25. Okay? It wasn't needed for you to have strength 1 or 2 in the original game. And here it could only be a possibility if you were reduced to that by a particular magical spell or effect, or as a direct result of already having a 3 strength and being venerable in age, or something of that nature. Okay? It is interesting to have it here on the page, but it's not really all that necessary. What is significant is you'll notice that the 19 through 25 is listed in blue at the bottom of the table. Now, that could have been for many reasons. For me, when I ran second edition all that time, I just wanted to know, if they were fighting a hill giant, I wanted to know what that hill giant's strength score was and what it added to their to hit and damage. I would go and look at their damage per weapon and try to figure out how they came to that total of damage, and did they in fact factor in the strength to hit and damage adjustment into that number. And if not, I would make the necessary adjustments. It's also there, so if someone got a girdle of giant strength and it said this is what your strength score is, you would go back and refer to this table. In first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, in order to determine that number, the dungeon master had to find that information, and I believe it was in Deities and Demigods, and what later becomes Legends and Lore. It might have been in a Dragon Magazine article, and if someone knows that there's other places where it was, you may let me know. But this is the first place that it actually is in the player's handbook for all the characters to take a look at this as well. Okay. Also, you will notice not that the bonuses are any different from the to hit and damage between the two tables, but you'll notice that the weight allowances have increased. So, for example, the weight allowance for an 18 over 100 in first edition gave you plus 300 pounds of weight, whereas in second edition it was 335. So you got just a little bit of a boost in poundage as your weight allowance. And your max press, of course, was 480 in the second edition. And I'm not going to look at the first edition movement section to determine what your base was for your given character to start with, plus the number that was listed there on the sheet. Someone told me one time it was 600 for normal humans, and I don't know. If you know that, please post that in the comments. I wouldn't mind you putting a reference as to where you found that. That'd be great. But I didn't notice that. Also, like I said, there is a noticeable difference in the open doors section as it relates to rolling it on a d20. And also, in first edition, 18 over 91 to 99 and 18 over 100 were the only two scores where a fighter was able to force open a locked, barred, magically held or wizard locked door. Okay, and that was significant. Okay, because if you had hold portal, you weren't going to open that without dispelling the magic. Unless you could destroy the area around it and get around the door, unless you had that 18 over 91 to 100 range strength in first edition. Okay, now here in second edition, yes, it's 18 over 91 to 99 and 18 over 100, but the number range is slightly different because, again, it's based on a d20. So you'll need a 3 or less on the d20 for 18 over 91 to 99, and a 6 or less on a 18 over 100. I don't know the difference in the percentages there between which one would be more advantageous for you, because in first edition, in order to do a magical one, you need a 1 on a d6, and 18 over 100 would need a 2. Okay, so if I'm doing my math correctly, that's about 33% chance on an 18 over 100. And here at an 18 over 100 in second edition, that's a 6 out of 20. I'm not going to do that math real fast. You do it for me and you tell me what it is. I'm not good with that stuff in my head. But you tell me what the difference is. I suspect that the second edition has kind of put the kibosh on that just a little bit, and first edition comes out slightly ahead, but I don't know. And then on Ben Barr's lift gates, 18 over 100 has a 40% chance, and here in second edition, it's a 40% chance. If you go backwards up the chart, it's pretty much the same as the second edition chart, except for first edition's 1% chance to do that doesn't start until an 8. Okay, and no, actually, and second edition starts at the same. So that looks like that chart is exactly the same. Where it varies, obviously, is once you hit 19 and beyond. Okay, the Hill Giant, Stone Giant, Frost, Fire, Cloud, Storm, and then the Titan. Okay, so those are some differences between them. We had characters that had this blue area, this 19 to 25 strength ranges in our games. They were not game breaking by any stretch of the imagination until you got really ridiculous up there. But we had people with belts of giant strength, or girdles, I guess would be the case, in first edition, and in second edition they were girdles of giant strength. We had those. It was not a big deal. We had people with gauntlets of vocal power. I had a character when I was a player in the very beginnings of first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. When I was playing that early on, one of my characters had a girdle of giant strength, a gauntlets of vocal power, a hammer of thunderbolts, and knew the name. And so they called him Little Thor because he was a halfling. And he was pretty fun to play. And that was not game breaking. It was pretty fun to do. So if you have any experiences with the strength here, or you see any differences that I did not, please let me know. One other thing I will take note of that I said before that I really like is in second edition, in the Player's Handbook, if you wanted to know what the minimum scores needed for your character were, you had to look under the class, okay? And you had the heading of warrior and then the subheading of fighter, and then paladin and ranger were lumped together in the other column, okay? And if you wanted to be one of those, you had to look and read in the paragraph as to what would qualify you for those, okay? I like how first edition did it better in that there is a little call-out table right here that just quickly tells you if you want to be let's say you wanted to be a female human or a male gnome, and you happen to roll an 18 over 51, you would be able to look at this chart, table 1 on page 9 of the first edition Player's Handbook, and you would say, ups, I can't be that because that's outside of my maximum range for a female human or for a male gnome, so I need to pick something else. It was a way in order to create characters where sometimes we did this. You would roll your stats, and the scores you would roll determined what it is you could choose from to be. You didn't get to choose everything all up front and kind of build your character. Rather, you would roll your stats, and then that gave you a list of things you could and could not be in relation to what you rolled. We didn't always do it that way, but it was very fun to do it that way. Very interesting, the outcomes that could come from that. Now, we always rolled 3d6, dropped the lowest. Sometimes it would be in order, and sometimes it was put them where you want them. Various groups do various different takes on that. The first edition Dungeon Master's Guide has a list of all the ways Gary suggests. If you use Unearth's Arcana, boy, there are some wild ones in there. And then there are some variations here in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition as well. Some of them matching the first edition GMG and some of them not. So you create your characters however you want, but it's an interesting way to approach characters rather than, hey, it's me, I'm going to pick all of my special things all for myself, and I get to choose anything and everything that I desire. Instead, it was a way to kind of have some mystery and to kind of let some things be chosen for you by the roll of the dice, and that can be kind of fun. So I'd suggest maybe you try to do that yourself, see what you come up with. If you come up with some unique roles that way and you want to share that and share what character you ended up generating or choosing from that, that'd be cool to see in the comments as well. I'd appreciate that. But that's all I think I'm going to cover for today. I've gone quite long already. Again, thanks for the thumbs up, the likings there, and the subbings, and for the shares. I really, really appreciate that. Check out the information in the channel if you want to figure out a way to support me in any way you can and help me certainly to grow this channel. I'm looking to continue going forward. As Gary used to always say, prosper in good gaming. Hey, take care and God bless. Later, guys.